The monitor kept beeping in a slow, mocking rhythm as another contraction tore through me. I squeezed my husband's hand so hard I was surprised he didn't cry out. "Breathe, Lila. I've got you," Aaron whispered, his forehead pressed to mine. 6 hours. That's how long we'd been here. 6 hours of pain, sweat, hope, fear, and anticipation. Our daughter was finally ready to enter the world. Everything was supposed to be perfect. The lights were dim like I'd asked. Soft instrumental music played quietly in the background. Aaron kept murmuring encouragement, his voice steady even when mine wasn't. Then the door slammed open. "We're here." That voice. I didn't even need to look. My mother-in-law, Celeste Whitmore, swept into the room like she owned the place. Designer coat, flawless makeup, lips pinched tight with authority. Her husband, Richard, followed behind her, his face already twisted into that familiar look of disapproval, the same look he'd worn the day Aaron introduced me 3 years ago. "We couldn't miss the birth of our first grandchild," Celeste announced. The nurse stepped in immediately. "I'm sorry, only one support person is allowed during delivery." Celeste scoffed. "Don't be ridiculous. This is a family matter." Her cold blue eyes locked onto mine. They always did, measuring, judging, searching for flaws. "After all, we need to make sure everything is legitimate." "Mom, stop," Aaron said, exhaustion creeping into his voice.
"Not now."
"Lila's in labor." "Oh, I'm fully aware," she replied, checking her reflection in her phone. "Though I do find the timing rather interesting." Another contraction hit, sharper than the last, and I couldn't hold back a cry. "Barely 9 months after the wedding," she continued calmly. "Some people rush things." The doctor glanced up. "We're close. I need everyone except the father to leave."
"Now."
"We're staying," Richard said flatly. His voice carried the weight of decades spent intimidating people in boardrooms. "This child will carry our family name," he added. "We need to verify." "Verify what?" Aaron snapped, finally losing his patience. "For God's sake, Dad." Celeste's manicured fingers tapped against her purse. "You know how things can be, especially considering Lila's background." "My background?" "Foster homes. Scholarships. Waiting tables through college. No powerful last name. No safety net. In their world, that made me suspicious by default." "Push," the doctor instructed. Nothing else mattered anymore. I pushed with everything I had, gripping Aaron's hand, shutting out their voices, their accusations, their stares. And then crying.
"Strong. Loud. Alive."
"Congratulations," the doctor said, placing a tiny, warm bundle on my chest. "You have a healthy baby girl." I broke. Tears streamed down my face as I looked at her. Dark hair like Aaron's, my nose, tiny fingers curling against my skin. She was perfect. Aaron was crying too, touching her hand like she might disappear if he pressed too hard. Then Celeste spoke. "She doesn't look like a Whitmore." The room went dead silent. "What did you say?" I asked quietly. Celeste stepped closer, peering at my baby as if she were inspecting a flawed product. "I'm just making an observation. Our genes are very strong. All the Whitmore babies look the same." "Mom, stop it," Aaron warned. "I'm only saying what everyone's thinking," Richard added. "A woman with no family appears out of nowhere, gets pregnant quickly. Any reasonable person would have questions." Something inside me snapped. "You want proof?" I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me.
"Fine."
"Order a DNA test. Right now." Aaron stared at me. "Lila." "No," I said. "If they want proof, we'll give them proof. But we test everyone." Celeste laughed softly. "Whatever makes you feel better, dear." I looked straight at her. "Unless you're the one with something to hide." Celeste's smile was tight, calculated, but I caught a flicker of something behind it. Annoyance. Maybe even fear. "Very well," she said. "Order your little tests. You'll see we're telling the truth." "Fine," I replied, matching her tone. "We'll test everyone. The baby, Aaron, me, and you too." Richard shifted uncomfortably. That's unnecessary. Not if you're questioning my integrity, I shot back. We'll clear everything. Or expose it. For a brief moment, I saw it, the first real crack in their polished armor. But just as quickly, Richard's expression hardened, and Celeste waved me off, dismissive as ever. Order your tests. We'll see who's lying. Within the hour, the hospital's legal team was involved. They looked uneasy, caught in the middle of something far bigger than a standard delivery room dispute. Samples were taken from everyone. Baby, Aaron, me, Celeste, and Richard. Celeste and Richard protested loudly, but I didn't flinch. This was my daughter. This was our family. 2 days later, we gathered in a sterile conference room at the hospital. Aaron held our baby, sleeping, oblivious to the storm about to unfold. Celeste sat ramrod straight, confidence radiating like perfume. Richard fiddled with his watch, phone, anything to avoid looking at us. The hospital administrator, Dr. Elaine Mercer, entered, envelope in hand. As requested, she said, her tone formal, we have the DNA results. For clarity, tests were conducted independently by 3 separate labs. Celeste leaned forward, sharp as ever. Get on with it. Dr. Mercer opened the envelope slowly, as if savoring the moment. First, paternity of the child. DNA confirms with 99.97% certainty that Aaron is the biological father and Lila is the biological mother. I exhaled, trying not to cry again. Aaron squeezed my hand. See, he murmured, but Celeste and Richard didn't move. Dr. Mercer continued, clearing her throat. Comparative DNA analysis was conducted on all parties tested. The results are unexpected. Celeste's face remained unreadable for a second. Then, the words hit. The results confirm that Aaron is not biologically related to Celeste or Richard Whitmore. Probability of parentage, 0%. The room froze. Celeste's carefully painted face went pale. Her lips parted, then snapped shut. Richard's phone slipped from his hand with a clatter. Silence pressed down, thick and suffocating. Impossible, Celeste whispered, almost to herself. There must be a mistake. Dr. Mercer's voice was gentle but firm. 3 independent laboratories confirm the results. They are conclusive. Aaron's eyes widened in shock, staring at the parents who had raised him his entire life. Wait, what does this mean? I stepped closer, voice low but fierce. It means your so-called perfect family isn't what you thought it was. Celeste opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Richard looked as if the ground had shifted beneath him. At that moment, the conference room door opened slowly. An elderly woman entered, silver hair pulled into a neat bun, eyes wide with recognition. Behind her, 2 police officers followed silently. She paused, letting her gaze sweep over Aaron. Aaron? Daniel? Her voice cracked. It's me, Margaret Sinclair. I'm your real grandmother. Celeste's gasp was sharp, animalistic. Richard sank back in his chair. Margaret stepped forward, holding herself with quiet dignity. 31 years ago, my daughter, Julia, she was at Riverside Hospital after giving birth. Vulnerable, alone, and heavily medicated. Someone took her baby. That baby was you. Aaron's body went rigid. Theo kidnapped me? Margaret nodded slowly, tears streaming. Your mother spent 20 years searching before she passed. She never stopped hoping she would find you. I wrapped my arm around Aaron as he absorbed the truth. Our daughter stirred in his arms, innocent in a world suddenly full of lies. Celeste and Richard looked stricken, but neither had an answer that could erase 30 years of theft, lies, and manipulation. Celeste's hand trembled slightly as she pressed it to her lips. Richard's usual corporate composure had completely crumbled, his shoulders sagging, eyes darting nervously. Aaron, still holding our daughter, looked between them with a mixture of disbelief and fury. Explain, he said quietly, every word heavy, controlled.
Why?
If you couldn't have children, why not adopt? Why steal someone else's baby? Margaret Sinclair stepped forward, her voice steady now, filled with quiet authority. She saw a young mother alone, vulnerable, and decided to take what wasn't hers. She thought her wealth and influence could give a baby a better life. Celeste's voice, usually sharp and commanding, wavered. We tried everything, IVF, adoption agencies, it never worked. Then we saw him. He had no one. He was perfect, and we thought we could. Her words faltered, guilt breaking through the practiced veneer. You destroyed someone's life, I said, my voice shaking but firm. You didn't just steal a child. You tried to destroy her future, her family, her identity. And now you have the audacity to question mine? Richard opened his mouth, then closed it again. There were no excuses left. Their power, their status, their wealth. It couldn't undo decades of lies. Margaret's eyes softened as she turned to Aaron. I know this is overwhelming. I don't expect you to forgive them, not yet. But I want you to know the truth about your mother. Julia Sinclair was brilliant, kind, and devoted to you from the moment you were born. She reached into her bag and pulled out a worn photo album, carefully handing it to Aaron. He took it with shaking hands, flipping through pictures of a woman he never knew. Her eyes smiled from every page, warm and full of love. This is my mother? He asked, voice barely a whisper. Yes, Margaret said, tears brimming. She searched for you until the end, hoping to see you grow up, to hold you once more. She never stopped hoping. Aaron closed the album and looked at me. Our daughter nestled against him. I need to process this, he admitted. But first, I need to protect her. Our daughter. She doesn't deserve to grow up in this chaos. I nodded, feeling a rush of pride and relief. She's safe. We'll make sure of it. Nothing like this will touch her. The police officers stepped forward, their presence quiet but firm. Celeste and Richard Whitmore, the first officer said, You're under arrest for kidnapping, identity fraud, and falsification of legal documents. Celeste's perfect posture finally collapsed. She babbled, trying to explain, justify, plead, but her words were hollow. Richard stayed silent. The facade of the untouchable corporate titan finally shattered. Margaret placed a gentle hand on Aaron's arm. You've waited 31 years to know the truth. It's a lot, I know. Take your time. Aaron nodded, inhaling deeply. Thank you, he said quietly, for never giving up on me for my mother. I looked down at our daughter. Her tiny hand grasped Aaron's finger. She didn't know it yet, but she had already changed the course of history. Her existence had uncovered a 30-year lie. Aaron turned back to Margaret, his voice stronger now. Can you tell me about her? My mother? Margaret smiled softly. Yes. Everything I can. And I will. Whenever you're ready. The room, once filled with accusations, tension, and fear, now held a strange kind of stillness, like the world had shifted. The Whitmore's power meant nothing. Their carefully crafted lies, all the control they tried to exert, had been exposed. I pressed my hand against Aaron's back. This is the start of something real, I said. No more masks, no more lies. Just us. Our family. Aaron nodded, a faint, almost tentative smile appearing. Yes. Just us and her. He looked down at our daughter, a new sense of purpose in his eyes. The first threads of relief, hope, and even joy began to weave themselves into the chaos. But one thing was clear. We weren't done yet. The Whitmore's downfall had only begun, and the story of our family was far from over. The officers led Celeste and Richard away in handcuffs. Their protests were shrill, but the sound barely reached us. Aaron didn't even glance at them. His eyes were fixed on our daughter, tiny and sleeping, completely unaware that the world around her had just changed forever. Margaret stayed close, a quiet anchor beside him. I'll explain everything about your mother, she said softly. Her life, her love for you, the things you never got to know. But we can take it one step at a time. Aaron nodded, holding the photo album close. I need that, he whispered. I need to know her. I rested my hand on his arm. And we'll make sure she, our daughter, grows up in truth, not lies. She'll know who she is from day one. Margaret smiled faintly, her eyes glimmering. That's what Julia would have wanted. Over the next few days, the hospital handled the formalities. Celeste and Richard were officially charged with kidnapping, identity fraud, and falsification of legal documents. News of the case spread quickly, and the Whitmore name, once synonymous with prestige, was now tainted, exposed for the deceit and cruelty that had been hidden for decades. Aaron struggled with the revelation about his past. 31 years of memories of family suddenly collided with a reality he hadn't imagined possible. But through it all, he held our daughter close, grounding himself in the present. "You know," he said one evening, rocking her gently, "all these years I thought I understood who I was, who I belonged to. And now," he paused, glancing at Margaret, "I finally know, and I finally have a family that's real." Margaret knelt beside him, brushing a stray lock of hair from his face. "You've always been who you were meant to be. It just took some time for the world to catch up. We named our daughter Julia Margaret, after Aaron's real mother and Margaret, the grandmother who never gave up hope. It felt right, like the first thread of justice and love stitched back into our lives." Weeks passed. Therapy helped Aaron process his identity, while Margaret became a steady presence in our lives, never pushing, only supporting. She taught us about the Sinclair family, the history that had been stolen, and the legacy that Aaron was reclaiming. Our home filled with warmth and laughter again. Aaron's real family slowly began to emerge, distant cousins, aunts, and uncles who had never stopped hoping Aaron would be found. The contrast with the Whitmores was stark. They had power, money, status, but no real love, no truth, no bond that mattered. One afternoon, as Julia played on the living room floor, Aaron leaned back on the sofa, watching her with a contented smile. "You know the irony," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "What?" All those years, Celeste obsessed over bloodlines, family names, who inherited what. And in the end, she had nothing. No biological claim to me, no real grandchild until Julia came along. And even then, it was love, not legacy, that mattered. I smiled, brushing Julia's hair back as she cooed at us. "And now," Aaron said, holding me close, "I have everything real. A wife who fought for the truth, a daughter who knows exactly who she is, and a grandmother who never stopped believing." For the first time in years, peace settled over us, not the quiet of fear, but the calm of truth. The Whitmore's world had crumbled, their lies exposed. And our family, finally real and whole, could grow without the weight of secrets. I looked at Julia, asleep in Aaron's arms, tiny fingers wrapped around his. She would grow up surrounded by love, truth, and the knowledge that her existence alone could expose the lies of even the most powerful. Sometimes, I thought, the most devastating betrayals can lead to the greatest truths. And in that truth, we found everything that really mattered: family, identity, and love. Months passed, but the memory of those first shocking days never left us. Celeste and Richard were sentenced, 15 years each for kidnapping, identity fraud, and falsifying documents. Their estate was seized to compensate Margaret and to establish a foundation for families searching for missing children. Justice had been served, but for Aaron and me, the real victory was far more personal. Aaron had begun the slow process of reclaiming his identity. Therapy helped him untangle decades of false memories, while Margaret guided him gently through the history that had been stolen from him. She never pushed, never demanded. She simply offered herself as a constant, steady presence, letting him take the lead. Our daughter, Julia Margaret, became the bridge between past and future. She was a living testament to truth prevailing, to love triumphing over deception. Watching her grow, hearing her laughter, seeing her curiosity blossom, reminded us daily that she had not just survived our challenges, she had transformed them into hope. One sunny afternoon, we hosted a small family gathering. Margaret played the piano in the living room while Julia, in her high chair, smashed her first birthday cake with delight. Aaron laughed, a full, unguarded laugh that I hadn't heard since learning the truth about his past. The house, once heavy with tension, now rang with genuine joy. Aaron leaned back, eyes on Julia. It's ironic, isn't it? He said softly. Celeste obsessed with bloodlines, family names, genetic legitimacy, and in the end, she had none of it. No real claim to me. No true family. Just a 30-year lie. I smiled, brushing Julia's tiny fingers. And now, he said, holding me close, we have everything that actually matters.
Truth. Love.
Family. Margaret, sitting nearby, nodded with a gentle smile. Your mother would be so proud, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Proud of the man you've become. Proud of the family you're creating. For Aaron, the journey was ongoing. Rebuilding a sense of belonging wasn't simple, but with Margaret's guidance and our support, he was learning that identity was more than bloodlines. It was about the connections we choose, the love we nurture, and the integrity we live by. I often caught myself staring at Julia as she slept, tiny hand clutching Aaron's finger. She would grow up knowing exactly who she was, her story untainted by lies or manipulation. She would inherit a legacy not of wealth or power, but of resilience, persistence, and unwavering hope. The Sinclair name, once lost, was alive again through her. Aaron squeezed my hand, eyes soft but determined. You know what's amazing, he said. All those years, the Whitmores thought they controlled everything. They built their world on deception, manipulation, and status.
And now?
Their empire is gone. Their lies are exposed. And what they couldn't have, we have. I lean my head on his shoulder. Everything real. Everything that matters. He kissed the top of my head, looking down at Julia with awe. A wife who fought for the truth, a daughter who reminds us what's really important, and a grandmother who never stopped searching. That's more than Celeste and Richard ever had with all their wealth. I smiled through tears, watching Margaret gently hum a lullaby, rocking Julia in her arms. The sound was soft, but it carried the weight of decades of hope, loss, and love finally fulfilled. In that moment, I realized something profound. Sometimes, the greatest gifts come from the most unexpected places, even from the accusations of those who wished to harm us. They challenged us, tried to tear us down, but in doing so, they revealed the truth. And the truth had given us everything. As Julia stirred, eyes fluttering open, I brushed a lock of hair from her forehead. She looked up at us, tiny smile breaking across her face, and in that instant, the past, the lies, the betrayals, the stolen years, melted away. What remained was real, unbreakable, and ours. Aaron whispered, his voice full of wonder. Welcome to the world, Julia Margaret Sinclair. This is your story. And it's just beginning. I held both of them close, my heart full. A new legacy had begun, not of names or power, but of love, truth, and the family we chose to be. And for the first time in years, the future felt brighter than I could have ever imagined.